Good morning, everyone. It's May 20th, 2024, and depending on where you are, it's 11:30 Eastern Time, 10:30 Central, 9:30 Mountain, or 8:30 Pacific Time. You are with and a part of the AMCC, the American Manufacturing Communities Collaborative, and this is our weekly national call every non-holiday Monday. So next Monday's Memorial Day, so we will not have a call, but every other Monday, a non-holiday Monday, we're here for 30 minutes. And my name is Matt Bogosian. I'm the Executive Director of AMCC. And you have our Operations Director, David Van Sicklin, on here, and many, many, many volunteers. We are a collaboration of regional leaders and BFFs from all kinds of organizations, public, private, nonprofit, volunteering to spend 30 minutes a week with one another to strengthen manufacturing communities and the American project. We all know we need to make safer, smarter, better products closer to home. And to do that, we focus on regional ecosystems of support that the manufacturers need to thrive. So we call those areas the big six of the regional ecosystems. David can drop a link to those big six. Workforce, of course, is big, but also capital access and a whole laundry list of important component parts that regional manufacturing communities need to have working, sufficiently, and assess and keep, building and improving the performance in their region for the region to thrive, for the manufacturers to thrive. It takes consistency, interdisciplinary work, interorganizational work, collaborating, kind of a relentless focus on producing outcomes that their communities want, what we call sustainable development. So this is our weekly call. If you would, please put your name and affiliation in the chat. And like we always say, drop important things that you think will be beneficial to other regions around the country, whatever it is. The chat is a really useful tool to share information. So please use that. If you're new to these calls, these are national calls, 30 minutes free, open source calls. We hit some highlights from the other weekly activity that we do, which is the AMCC update newsletter that goes out at the end of every week. So if you're not getting that, put a note in the chat and or just go online to our website, AmericanMCC.org, and you can get signed up for that weekly update. And this is an ask, right? That update is only as good as the kind of the input that we get. David does a lot of work to put it together, but component parts of it come from regional leaders like you all, BFFs like you all, that are seeing what's happening out there. And so please keep that kind of information coming to us where it makes sense to send it and you wanted to see it in the AMCC update. Today we're going to have a talk with our friends from the Lafayette region of Louisiana about this week's AMCC Roadshow and how they are viewing that and working to strengthen their manufacturing region. So that'll be cool. But first, I want to hit a couple of AMCC update highlights from last week. So let's take a quick look at that. Okay, so we're going to talk more specifically about the Louisiana Roadshow. So if David can drop the link to the site on our website about AMCC Roadshows. These are co-created events, and you're going to hear about how one is developing in Louisiana, and so there's a lot to be learned from the AMCC community, but we do it best, I think, when we visit regions and help regional stakeholders get together to hear what we've learned over the last 10 years, but also to learn from them, because we're only as strong as our regions across the country. And so we'll talk in more detail in a minute about those visits. But we have another roadshow that's going to be in Michigan starting June 3rd. And a part of that is our partners at the Urban Manufacturing Alliance are having a gathering in Detroit. So in the AMCC update, and David's going to drop the link there. There is a convening there, co-creating the conditions for an inclusive workforce. So check it out. If you can make it there, that would be awesome. We have, of course, AMCC is the nation's manufacturing community of practice in partnership with EDA and the Department of Commerce. There are other subject matter communities of practice. And one of those is NATO, the National Association of Development Organizations. And so they have a network of economic development districts, some of whom are participating in AMCC as well. Is, we got not stay in our silos, so we want to share what NATO and the economic development districts are doing and work with them as close as we can. So there's a lot of good information in the update. They have a report on EDDs and higher education that you can check out. Similarly, there's this coal communities community of practice, and so we put some important information that they're putting out in terms of taking advantage of brownfields. And this gets at the infrastructure part of and site development part of manufacturing communities across the country. Brownfields, I used to work at the US EPA. We have a brownfields program, a lot of money that goes out, and a lot of important geographies are quote unquote brownfields, which is an opportunity to redevelop those spaces for manufacturing that's oftentimes close to important transportation infrastructure and other infrastructure. So check out that NATO link there. Our friends in Youngstown, Ohio, went in another roadshow that we were there with one of our institutes, America Makes. They have some good information around operationalizing capital access. So there's links there. Of course, we have our podcast, and that was a roadshow visit to the Research Triangle and North Carolina State University. You can check out Michael Mullins, who is at the MEP there, that's housed in the university, and doing great work in representing and helping manufacturers, across North Carolina. So lots to be learned there. Of course, all these funding opportunities, David puts in our AMCC update. And so check those out. If you're seeing other stuff that you think will be useful to other regions on, grant opportunities, but anything else, please let us know. This is an important resource and it really goes hand in hand with these calls. Where we can, pivot back and forth and share best practices. So thanks for being on the call. We're trying something cool and new today. And we talk a lot about these AMCC roadshows and the value add. And we have one happening this week in the Lafayette region of Louisiana. And so we thought, let's try this. And for those of you where we have visited in person, one of the things that we try to operationalize with our co-creators is creating virtual links to the meetings, right? So that even if you can't be there in person, you can beam in and listen to the meeting. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, because we are excited to have Chad Lacombe from University of Louisiana Lafayette, who is our AMCC roadshow co-creator in Louisiana. So I want to welcome him to the AMCC National Call. Chad, it's great to have you on and talk about the different stops that we're going to make and why you participate. Why are you co-creating this AMCC roadshow visit, number one, and then we can talk about each meeting, and then the virtual access to each of those that David's putting into the chat. So this is an experiment. That's one of our best things, is being being nimble and trying new things. And so Chad, welcome. Thanks for co-creating the AMCC roadshow this week in Louisiana, and let's let's talk first about why you decided to with all of your stakeholders across that region work to create an AMCC roadshow.
Well, David, thanks for having me on. But first and foremost, and this is sort of adding to the Economic Development District discussion. I was working for the Regional Economic Development District prior to moving to the university earlier this year. And as that duty is the Economic Development District, an EDA designated one, one of the things we had to do was create a comprehensive economic development strategy. Well, when we were creating the SEDS, which I co-wrote, manufacturing kind of popped out as one of our major sectors. And traditionally, we thought ourselves as oil and gas production, not so much manufacturing, but we're much broader now in manufacturing than we have been. And we really want to recast ourselves as a manufacturing community. And we've had some recent manufacturing wins that have really made us kind of take stock of where we are, what we're trying to do, and where we're going, and pivot. The biggest one landing the first solar P5 PV manufacturing facility in Iberia Parish, which is just south of Lafayette. And they're building a 2.3 million square foot factory to manufacture photovoltaic panels, which are just humongous semiconductors. And that $1 billion investment really is kind of the biggest manufacturing win we've had as a region. But it comes with some, heartburn and other things that we've had to do. And it goes back to the big six of workforce development, among other things, and some of the work that we're doing at the university. And we've kind of structured our roadshow around really the big six and identifying the things that we're good at, we're not so good at, maybe need help with, and really having a conversation with our broader manufacturing community to really set the stage of where we are as a region going forward for the next 5, 10, 20 years. I went ahead and shared a copy of our agenda for the next 3 days. Well, starting Wednesday for the roadshow, and with those we have Zoom links that everybody is welcome and encouraged to log in on and kind of be an observer or even chime in and give suggestions or feedback to the broader national community, because we want to build our network of networks. It's really part of one of our major goals for this roadshow. And David, I see, is dropping in all of the the Zoom links and the agenda into the broader ones. But we've broken up our manufacturing community in the panels into really 3 sectors. We're looking at general manufacturing, agricultural, and then our defense sector. And prior to really doing this work, we knew we had a couple of defense manufacturers out there, right? We just didn't realize the number. And it's actually a much larger number than originally we had anticipated for as a region. We found out we have 28 defense manufacturers in our region.
Chad, how'd you figure that out?
Well, we contacted our friends over at Apex and also Meeple, and they kind of put their heads together and looked at who they were providing technical assistance to and what they were manufacturing. Both of those are going to be panelists and participants in our roadshow. But the other area is, we have an urbanized area that includes Lafayette, but we also have a very significant rural population, and agriculture manufacturing is a very big part of that. And some of you guys may recognize some of the names in our agriculture manufacturing sector, Tabasco being one of those, McElhaney Company, as well as Tony Sashry Seasoning, if you're familiar with the seasoning brands, and Slap Ya Mama, which is another locally prominent seasoning. But also we have meat packers and other types of agriculture manufacturing, rice being another big one. If you're familiar with the brands, Mahatma Watermade, that's Conrico, that's another major national rice brand. And they have both parboil facilities and other types of agricultural manufacturing for the finished product.
So Chad, for what can you tell so far in terms of, let's take that agricultural manufacturing community, what are we going to be looking at? Is it workforce? Is it?
Well, we're looking at a combination. Workforce, facilities, infrastructure, and funding, river transport, and also rail transport of products, being part of the infrastructure side, but also workforce. And one of our panelists is actually a veterans-owned business and veterans workforce development organization. They're going to be in one of our workforce panels as well. And they're associated with the founder of that organization is associated with Coastal Plains Meatpacking, which does primarily beef.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we go through? So David put in the chat here each one of these meetings and see if there's any other questions around the subject matter of these meetings. So I'm looking in the chat and I see the Wednesday 8:30 Central Time meeting with New Iberia. This is what you were talking about on the first solar presentation. If somebody chimes in on that one, Chad, what are they going to learn about?
Well, first thing is the New Research Center. The one of the university's major assets is the nation's largest non-human primate research center. And that research center provided during COVID the testing and non-human trials for all of the major vaccines, including Pfizer. We are currently expanding that facility to add a biosafety level 3 lab so that we can do more infectious diseases and testing using our primates. It's a higher level security and higher level of cleanliness. We just broke ground on that one. We are about to break ground on a new bioinnovation center, which will include a contract good manufacturing practices drug manufacturing facility, and that's currently under development in our research park. And we're actively recruiting biopharmaceutical companies that we can use to leverage our non-human primates with that contract manufacturing facility, and for drug discovery, drug development, and hopefully build out a biopharmaceutical manufacturing cluster down here. That's one of our targeted areas for growth, given our assets. The other area is in renewable energy, and we're heavily involved in solar manufacturing. And I mentioned earlier we had landed First Solar's 5th plant in the U.S. And they're tapping in a lot of the workforce that we had that was associated with oil and gas manufacturing that we had lost during the last downturn. And most of those people stayed in the region, but they're significantly underemployed. So the university, is one of our initiatives, is building a workforce development program to train people how to manufacture photovoltaic panels, but also doing utility grade installations. And we have up to 8 active solar fields being under development in the area, actively acquiring property on a utility side or utility scale. So that's sort of the big focus.
Then we've got at 12 o'clock Central Time on Wednesday the Workforce Development Panel with the Workforce Commission. Yeah, what's that about?
Well, Workforce Development Panel, we're going to bring in the providers of workforce development solutions, which includes our community college here, which is an Aspen Prize winning community college, and they have some unique programs both they have a broadband fiber optic lineman program, which is a very unique program. It has been integral in our broadband expansion efforts down here, excuse me. And the region is actively expanding fiber optic access throughout the region with a minimum of 10 gigabit service throughout to help support industrial development. Without the lineman program, we wouldn't have the workers to be doing the large scale expansion. That is heavily based off of both BEAD funding, which the EDD in our area helped write the state BEAD plan when Louisiana, remember, was first out of the gate with their BEAD plan, and was also one of the early award winners in the NTI Broadband Infrastructure Program grant, which there were only 12 of those awarded, and they got one of the 12. That expansion really helps flesh out the backbone of the fiber optic network in the region. So we're building a fiber optic network to really just kind of sustain advanced manufacturing going forward. Is sort of the basis. The other partner is our university here, and we're going to talk about our workforce programs here, as well as Louisiana State University in Eunice, which is in our region. And they have a lot of workforce programs centered on agricultural manufacturing and agriculture, including a drone program and an apprenticeship program for those meatpacking plants that we mentioned later.
And then Wednesday later the afternoon at 2:30 Central, you've got an economic development priorities panel. What's that?
Well, we're bringing in our parish or county level economic development officials, the regional folks, as well as APEX, which is an accelerator for defense manufacturing. And we're gonna have them talk about, kind of their successes and failures and what their needs are, and plugging in and how we can better attract manufacturing and industry into the region.
And then capping off the Wednesday activities with the manufacturers themselves. Tell us about that. Yeah.
Well, and we're focusing in that particular day on defense manufacturers. And the defense manufacturing community includes probably one of the better known ones is Metal Shark. And Metal Shark is one of at the forefront of autonomous surface vessels and integrating those with weapon systems. If you've read, there's an article about them in, I believe, New York Times or Wall Street Journal. They're one of the providers that are providing the autonomous surface vessels for Ukraine. And a lot of their work is very interesting. And they're leveraging AI and some of the other work that the university is doing.
So then on Thursday, we're meeting with some local elected officials. Is that right?
Correct. And, we want to bring in the perspective of policy on the local level and how you attract business and industry and how you continue to support them once they're here. Local elected officials, the range is from zoning and land use permitting all the way to economic support in the form of things like pilots and TIFs and economic development districts can all be used to help build and support industry.
And then, of course, right, what is it, 99% of all of our 250,000 manufacturers across the country are small manufacturers, and we're going to meet with some of the local manufacturers.
And we're waiting with a range. We're waiting meeting with people that include Stellar Settings, which is the nation's largest jewelry manufacturer, all the way down to, the mom and pop small scale manufacturer. And we have a good range in between as well on that panel.
And then Thursday we finish up with the manufacturing infrastructure priorities, one of the big six, right?
Absolutely. And that's talking to electric power, broadband, water, sewer, and the challenges they face when they have a big project that comes in, whether it's a capacity issue or a rate issue. Those are the conversations we want to have.
Yeah, one of the things that came up in our AMCC advisory board this last week was around utilities and how important utilities are in terms of engaging in the manufacturing community ecosystem, because they have a lot of say-so in terms of how we're going to meet the power needs of manufacturers. So super important. And then how's it going to finish up on Friday, Chad? Yeah.
Friday, well, we're gonna finish up the last panel on agricultural manufacturing, and we're gonna also tour one of the new upgraded facilities. We had a local rice mill in the Crowley area that kind of became a second generation, and they did some major facility upgrades and added sort of the value added part of the milling beyond just milling, which includes a parboil facility. So we'll take a tour of that facility as well to kind of cap things off.
That is awesome. So any questions for Chad? So you guys, Chad and his team down there has done a fabulous job, as you can see, putting together some really key meetings. So if you have questions for Chad, Chad, so far, right, we'll see how it rolls out this week, but it's looking very well organized. And can you tell other folks that maybe haven't had an AMCC Roadshow visit, what you've learned about, the benefits of it, how best to do it, et cetera? Yeah.
Well, and from a personal standpoint, even as a university, the thing we've learned most about is probably we've gotten just through the planning process Learned a lot about particular our defense manufacturing industry, but also, you know, a lot of the other segments. And then adding all of the framework of the big six really just is a good talking point and conversation starter. And with some intentionality in where we need to go and where we are. It's an assessment.
You mentioned the defense manufacturing community. What U.S. Manufacturing USA Institute or institutes are you guys engaged with down there?
Right now, we're engaged directly with Biomade because we do have a pretty significant industrial biotech sector. And that's gonna kind of dovetail or at least run parallel with our involvement with Nimble, which is more on the pharmaceutical manufacturing. I mean, there's some overlap between those two communities. That's been interesting to work with.
Well, great. You know, we have Don Ufford and many other folks from Manufacturing USA Institutes as a part of our AMCC calls, and so that'll be great to learn more about how we make the most of these investments in our institutes in regions around the country.
Well, and we're also actively looking at the new NOFO for the digital twinning and semiconductor, and actively seeking either to be on a team or to put together a team, because it aligns very well with the solar panel manufacturing that we're doing and the training, workforce development training we're doing, and part of that program. We already have an active digital twinning program at the university at the World Light Center. That's one of the areas we'll tour while we're here.
And what Chad's talking about for those that aren't tracking it as closely, right? We have 17 different Manufacturing USA institutes around the country. There are going to be 2 more honchoed by NIST around digital twins and also AI in manufacturing. And so on the first one, NIST has put out a notice of funding opportunity for coalitions to put together applications to lead the new digital twin Manufacturing USA Institute. So lots of good stuff there, Chad. Couldn't be more appreciative of your teamwork so far. Looking forward to learning more, and thank you for being so upfront with sharing all of these links and all of these meetings, and really trying to both add value to the rest of the nation by sharing things that are working in Louisiana and challenges and hopefully the regions around the country will chime in, and BFS will chime in and add value to what's happening in Louisiana. So this is kind of emblematic of the kind of value add I think building a trusted open source community can deliver. Jim asked a question: are there manufacturers using digital twin tools now? I guess is the question.
Well, we are certainly developing out a digital twin tool with First Solar as a model. And if you're not familiar with the type of solar panel they make, it's a cadmium telluride composite thin coat, which the manufacturing technology is very similar to the same type of technology you would do for microchip manufacturing. It's a sputter coated deposit on a thin film as a thin film, and then etched. So developing out that digital twin capacity with them and then working with their equipment, which is like a humongous, panel. It's a 4 foot by 8 foot, sheet of plywood size panel. We're going to build some capacity to also be able to do the digital twinning and the manufacturing technology for semiconductors, including microchips. It's a matter of scale and cleanliness at this point. Well, in a slightly different set of elements, but well, alongside the kind of solar panel manufacturing, in which you guys are going to get to see the thing under construction. We're building a full-scale manufacturing plant as part of our training facility. So we'll have a single assembly line for those panels. We're also building a clean room facility where we're also going to be able to do the smaller scale microchip type size manufacturing as well.
Good question, Jim. And thanks, Chad. And thank you all for being on the call. Not missing a beat. Susan at NIST headquarters in DC dropped in the chat the notice of the funding opportunity that that's the AI for Resilient Manufacturing Institute. So thank you, Susan. Thank you all. Remember next Monday is Memorial Day, so we will have no AMCC national call, but we'll return the following Monday as usual. Thanks so much, and hope to see you guys virtually in Louisiana later this week. Thanks, Chad. Nice work.
All right. Thanks, guys.